Hi everyone, welcome to North and South Pods. This is a family history podcast, and this is one I've been looking forward to for a while. This guy, he's really hard to pin down, and that's my Uncle Frank Dietz. Do you know in people's minds, like when you were growing up, you watch American films, and there's a really nice American guy in an American film from your youth. That guy is like Frank Dietz. So Frank, do you want to introduce yourself? How are you?
I'm doing well today. A little bit hot here in the Philadelphia suburbs. We're probably up to darn near 90 today. So it's going to be 100 degrees today, but we get by. I'm retired. I don't have to work out in it
anymore. Good. Just so you know, just for all the European listeners who are like fainting right now, that's 100 degrees Fahrenheit, folks. So don't worry. Yeah. But yeah, I've been to Philadelphia a few times. It was hot, but beautiful in the suburbs where you live. So, Frank, you're my uncle and you married my mum's sister, Mary. So how did you meet? Because my mum's got 4 sisters who live over in the United States. So how did you meet Mary then?
Well, we met when I was in the Air Force station in Germany. Mary worked for the Army as a typist. They were on kind of one hill, Army on one hill, Air Force on other, but we kind of shared NCO clubs. So my group of Air Force buddies met Mary's group through actually Mary's sister Liz.
Yeah.
And they all traveled in a group. There was probably 6 or 7 of them and 6 or 7 of us guys. So we just all got friendly, and one thing led to another, and eventually got married. And Mary moved to the States, had a few kids, and here we are 51 years later.
Incredible. And I remember your 40th, which must have been about 5 years ago now, in the back garden. So Mary, you've moved to the States, haven't you? You've been over there for how long, but you've still got your Scouse accent.
51 years. Yeah.
And how do you keep a Scouse accent in the Philadelphia suburbs then?
Well, someone told me one time, Tim, if you come to America when you're young, you'll lose it. But if you come after you're 18 or a bit older, you don't lose it. Now, I don't know how that is, why that is, but that's what someone told me. So it is, because I still have mine. And I think too, like say I come home or we go on a cruise or something with the others, I think I pick it back up again because they're all talking like a whacker. So I tend to pick it back up,
And I'm just starting to understand it now. It's took 50 years, so I'm kind of getting the hang of it now. But in those early years, it was tough.
Yeah. Well, apparently it's only been around for about 150 years, the Scouse accent. And I remember going to the McDonald's not far from your house. Actually, me and Claire and Martin went down there, and the people in there, the jaws dropped when they heard our accent, and they were saying that we were Irish. And me, Martin, and Claire were saying, well, Martin's from Scotland, but we're from Liverpool, which has got an Irish influence. But my mum's got sisters who live in Oregon, on the West Coast, in Florida, and also in Philadelphia. And I think I went to Philadelphia in 1978, and there's a great picture of me, Frank, on your bike, because you like the bikes, don't you? Do you like getting out on the road, like easy rider?
Yeah.
I remember when you came, Bushead and
Beavis and Butthead. I just sent you a clip, which I thought you'd get a laugh out of.
That was on the tally.
Yeah.
No, I laughed at that. Yeah. When I went over there, folks, I wanted to watch Beavis and Butthead, which was some ridiculous MTV cartoon, and Mary was a bit concerned that me younger cousin Derek might pick up a few bad words from it. So we have a little joke about that still. But...
Well, he is Butthead now. So he is grown to be Butthead.
But all joking aside, like the 3 times I've visited Philadelphia have been tremendous, and you've always been so warm and welcoming and dropped everything. So it's always nice to speak to you. And I must admit, I've been following the Philadelphia Eagles, the American football team, a lot more in recent years. And when we were over there, we went to see the Phillies, didn't we? The baseball team back in 2009. And you guys are so obsessed with your sport. It's infectious. When I'm over there, like I pick it up, you can see how important it is to people. So how long have you been seeing the Eagles, Frank?
Oh, I've had season tickets since 1977, but I've been following them since back to 1960. Since I was probably 9 years old. And they won the championship in 1960, and I thought, beginning to think I was never going to see another one.
Yeah.
but they finally got one.
On 2017.
2017, and it was a moment. There's people I wish I could have shared it with. Unfortunately, I couldn't.
Yeah.
But it was a nice moment. It was a nice.
Well, the kids were all with you.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. My kids were here, but I was missing my brother who had passed away, which we had done everything together. As you said earlier, we rode motorcycles together. We went to football games together. We worked together. He was my brother as well as my best friend.
Yeah. No, it was very sorry to hear when he passed, but when you just said then that the Eagles won it in 2017, I thought it was like 2020 or something in those years of.
We like to think it was more recent.
Well, they did go back, Tim, didn't they? They went back in 22 and lost it. The Chiefs.
Kansas, yeah. They've come close quite a few times, and in many ways.
We're always competitive now, it seems. So, which is a good thing,
Yeah.
Guys that went through all those bad years.
Yeah.
Being competitive isn't enough, but it's somewhat satisfying.
Yeah. Well, they're a bit like Everton, I think. Philadelphia Eagles, like big club, mad fans, etc., but never quite get it right. And
there's a lot of similarities between Philadelphia and football. I mean, we're shipping. Shipping lane, so to speak, on a river, passionate fans, working class. A lot of similarities, humor. It's very, very close. It's, not surprising we're attracted to one another because we share a lot of the same things.
Yeah, that's it. I always say to people, like, because American football's getting bigger over here, and people say who do you support, and I say the Eagles. Like, I've got immense pride in that. But we went to a game once, didn't we? Had like a cheesesteak before the game, the traditional Philly meal, and they play Rocky. They play Rocky, don't they, before the match? The feeling in the stands. I mean, you could see the whole of Philadelphia in the distance, and then all that music. There's something infectious about it. And I think when we went to Derek's college, Westchester, I think it was, when he was at college, and even how serious they take the college football, it was massive. When we went there as well to watch the training and stuff. So it's a big thing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So you're retired now, haven't you? But you used to work in the post office, you used to work in construction with your brother, etc.
Right.
And just going back to you and your brother, I believe that the film Easy Rider was actually based on you and your brother's life. Is that right?
Very close, yeah. I was Dennis Hopper. I like the suede jacket with the fringe.
Yeah.
Bill was more the red, white, and blue gas tank.
Yeah. Great film. Yeah, I think there's something about those like freeways and the idea of Route 66 in the States. It's so big. I mean, I've been there so many times, and you can't, like, I've been there loads of times and not gone anywhere near Philly, or you go to Philly and don't go to New York, or you go to New York and don't go anywhere else. It's a huge place, isn't it?
It's a great place. I mean, riding motorcycles it's great. It's just, it allows you that freedom. You just get out on the highway, like it's like everybody says, and it's just, you just go. It's just, and where you wind up, well, okay, let's stay here tonight, or let's keep going. It's just a freedom, and it's, I don't know, maybe it's a macho thing, a guy thing, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's a certain romantic edge, like to the US, the idea of like people going there and they can make something of their lives if they've come from a country where they couldn't, and the idea of like the frontier and the open space and all that. It is a place, like, when you go there, I don't think there's anywhere else like it in the world. And we can stand here all day and talk about some of the problems. We'll come to politics later. I've loved going to the States through the years, and I went to New York in 2018. I haven't been back since, but we've had COVID and all that. It's a great place to visit, but we've been lucky because our family have got family there, and it's always nice when you've got a base and a place to stay.
Yeah, everyone should visit America if they have the opportunity, Tim. It is a great place to see. I mean, you may not want to live here, but you certainly should come and see it and enjoy it.
Yeah. I think when I went when I was in my like teenage years, I think I was 16, 17, it was just perfect, like so exciting.
Yeah.
You know, great time. So, Frank, you've got a surname Dietz, which is German. Do you know where that comes from, or do you know much
Well,
about your family history?
actually, Claire, your sister, had helped me do a little bit of research on ancestry.com. I knew obviously my father's side came from Germany. I had always thought it's Dresden, and it may be Dresden, but I'd done the 23andMe saliva test, and that seems to think I'm more in the Black Forest, Baden-Baden area. So I'm not quite sure. I'd like to get back onto the ancestry and see if I can do a little more research to find out. But I hit a bit of a brick wall on the German side. Much more successful on my mother's side, which was the British side.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I've spoken to my other uncle Frank once. I want to get him on again to talk about the Irish family connections for my dad's side of the family. And I've spoken to my mum and dad, or Tom. I've had my grandmother on. But I wanted to speak to you because of the American thing, because within 2 generations, unless someone writes something down, things can be forgotten very, very quickly. And everyone's that busy with the current lives. They think, oh, no one will be interested in that in the future, you know, just trying to get on. But do you know much about when people actually moved over, where they first settled, any of the history that's being passed down?
I would say on my father's side, the Dietz family, which actually the Dietz, the name was changed. It used to have an E on the end of it. It was Dietzy. And I guess when they got to Ellis Island, somebody said, well, we don't need that E anymore. Let's just get rid of that and just make it Dietz. But that was probably a little bit before the turn of the century. I'd say late 1800s. I have that information upstairs, but I would say it was around that time. And my grandfather had come over when he was very young, along with, his name was Paul, and he had a brother Emil, and I think there was a Frank actually too. I think there was 3 of them. My uncle Paul and my father and my uncle Bob, I think at one point Lee Iacocca, you familiar with that name? He was the one that ran Chrysler. He was very involved in getting Ellis Island redone. And he looked for donations from anybody that would like their name on the wall that had passed through Ellis Island. So my father and at least 2 of my other uncles made a donation, and they had the names on a wall up there of those 3 I'd mentioned earlier. Paul, Emil, and I believe it was Frank. So their names are on the wall at Ellis Island.
Yeah, because there's a fantastic museum there, isn't it, about the way immigrants came in.
I need to, when the grandkids get a little bit older, we're gonna do that trip with them up to the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island and do all that. So
well, the first time I went to New York, I was with you. We went on the Staten Island ferry.
Yeah, that's right.
Past the Statue of Liberty, and I was a kid, I was just amazed by it all. But then when I went back again I think it was in the early noughties, I went to Ellis Island Museum and spent the day there, because you go to New York, you can go 7 times and you can barely do.
It's like London. It's the same.
It's a nice place to visit. But Ellis Island, there's so much history there. And I've been to the place in San Francisco, is it Angel Islands, I think, where people came in from the Pacific side as well. But it's a great part of the American history and the history of the continent, etc. But there's so much to do in New York. And do you know what happened? Did people go straight to Philadelphia from your family, or
from
how
what
did
I
that
can
work
understand?
out?
It seems like most of them came to Philadelphia. There was maybe one of them stayed up in the New York area. I had a Uncle Reinhold, who I barely remember. He was, I'm trying to think the relationship. He may have been a brother of my grandfather that was born here later, but he eventually wound up on a cruise liner, and he sailed in and out of New York, from what I understand. And my father would say it was always exciting when Uncle Reinhold was in port in New York. A lot of times he'd come down to Philadelphia and see them. But yeah, I think most of them stayed in the Philadelphia area. I'm not familiar with anybody. Like I say, I think somebody might have been in New York, maybe out on the end of Long Island, but I'm not exactly sure of that.
Yeah. Well, Philadelphia is a great place as well, and I've spent like probably about a month of my life in Philadelphia historically, and I've loved going there and checking out the city centre. You've got the Liberty Bell, loads of connections with the American Revolution.
Independence Hall, and Betsy Ross, who sewed the flag, and
yeah, it's good. Did your dad buy land near where your house currently is now? Is that what happened?
Was my father and mother got married. My father wanted to get out of the city, and he found a piece of ground here. And we're in a community called Bucks County, with a township called Upper Southampton, and it lies on the border between Bucks County and Montgomery County, which is pretty nationally known because of. We'll get into politics later, but it's always an area. How is the Philadelphia suburbs going to vote? How is Bucks County going to vote? How is Montgomery County? But anyway, we're right on the border line on the Bucks County side. And my father come up and he found a piece of property here, a little over an acre, with another fella. When they were going to make settlement on the property, the other fella didn't show up and backed out. My father was kind of stuck. He didn't have the money. So he went to his grandmother, who we called Mutti. He went to Mutti and he said, Mutti, can I borrow money from you? Because this guy backed out of the deal. Mutti said to him, yes, as long as you pay me back.
And he was only a young fellow.
Yeah, he was only 21, 22, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. She lent him the money. He wound up buying the whole property, which was a full acre. And he done a lot of the excavating through people he knew, through my grandfather, his father. And he went to a fella in Willow Grove, which is kind of the next town over, who built houses. And he said, I can build you a shell, all the lumber, framing, all that type of stuff for, I think, Tim, it was like $4,000. He said, you just pay me back as a monthly payment. So that's what he did. He done all the exterior work. He done all the interior work, obviously done the roofing because he was very knowledgeable even at that time about roofing. And he finished the place off, and eventually he paid these guys off. I can remember as a kid going to pay this particular man, his name was Stitzinger, paying him off every month. And the honesty between people then was different then. My father says he went in to make the last payment. He goes, Mr. Stitzinger, he says, this is the last payment. He goes, oh, is it? Okay. I mean, $4,000 is a lot of money, but back then it was a lot of money.
But your dad has a journal, Tim.
Mike
Journal and he would write down let's say you get paid $20 a week. I have no idea what he got, but he would have in his little journal. Took Doris the movies. It was 5 cents each. But she wanted popcorn, so it cost me another like 5 cents, and what every payment he made to anyone, he would write it down in his journal, But
he still has it. He brought it out the last time we were down there.
It's very interesting, yeah.
And how old's your dad now?
97.
Yeah, he's doing well, isn't he? Quite a character.
Yeah, he's not walking too good anymore, but he's still got it here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at 97, I think I'd take anything. But I mean, that's a great story, though. The idea of, because were you involved in building the house you're currently in, or?
I built this whole house.
Yeah,
myself.
you built the whole house yourself, didn't you? Yeah.
I was just saying, when I came out of the service, and Mary and I got married, I came out in the January. We got married in the June. Juneteenth, by the way, if that means anything to anybody in England, Juneteenth. That was the Emancipation Proclamation got signed. We lived in the basement for a year and a half, 2 years. And I went and I got a construction loan, which is another kind of crazy story. Back then, they didn't want to lend me any money because they didn't want to count the wife's money, because she'll get pregnant and you'll lose that income.
Yeah.
And you couldn't afford to, you didn't
And
make enough to
And
live
I
in
didn't
Bucks
make
County.
enough to
So
borrow
you
the
didn't
money myself.
You didn't make enough to live in Bucks County.
Oh,
yeah.
oh, right. That was another thing. Yeah, Bucks County was affluent,
Right.
and I didn't have enough money.
Which it was, because Huntington
So,
Valley is very affluent.
A crazy little side story. I was out working with my dad on a job, roofing job in Southampton, and I was talking to him about, I don't know what I'm going to do, Dad, about getting this, construction loan. And the gentleman there,
Can you believe?
happened to hear me talking, and he says, "Oh, you're looking to get a construction loan?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Why don't you get down to the Northeast Federal Bank?" And I said, "I've already been there." I said, "They wouldn't even let me get my ass in the seat,
Yeah.
and tell me not to see you." So he said, "Well, let me talk to somebody." I said, okay.
He was
So
on the board of directors.
we found out
too.
he was on the board of directors. He called me one night. I'll never forget. We were sitting at the dinner table, and my brother picked up the phone. He says, "Here, it's Mr. Peak wants to talk to you." I said, "Hello, Mr. Peak," and he goes, "Yeah." He says, "Go down and see Bob Strong. He was the president of the bank." He says, "He'll take care of you." And
Got a loan?
only by him hearing that conversation, I went down and I got the loan for $20,000. In the meantime, I had tore down a house, saved all the lumber, stacked it up back here in the back corner of this property right now. And when I got the construction loan, off I went. I had somebody that I wheeled and dealed with to dig the footings, and I've done the cinder block and done all I've done everything in this house myself except for the plumbing, which they wouldn't let me do because you had to be licensed, and the electric. And I've pretty much done everything else,
And it's a great
And
house.
I finally just about got it the way we finally got it, the way we want it. And I'm getting too old to appreciate it, so we'll probably downsize.
Yeah, this is it, isn't it? You've got to keep on top of it. But I mean, some of the memories I've got to go in there, and also yourselves. You couldn't meet two nicer people than yourselves as a couple. And I think when I think of people around the world have a bit of a mixed opinion about the United States sometimes. Like, God, it seems a bit crazy over there and Trump and everything else. But your story's kind of like what the American dream was all about. You know what I mean?
Hey, listen, Mary, what do I say every day? I'm a lucky man. And I am, and I really mean it. She laughs at me, but I really mean it. I am a lucky man.
Yeah.
White privilege, whatever you want to call it. I was lucky that way. Luckily, I had parents, and my parents were hardworking people. My mother didn't work. Everything was on my father's shoulders
She did work, Tim. She
worked.
She worked at home with
worked
five
outside the home.
children.
That's I know that's not. I didn't say that politically correct, but
and she had polio, so she.
And my mother had polio.
Arm.
Yeah, my polio. She had polio on one arm, and so she'd done everything with her left hand. She couldn't do anything with her right hand.
She spent 2 years at Shriners Hospital when she was a young girl. She got polio, and that back then they would take them away from the mum and dad and put a brace on them and teach them how to eat and dress themselves, and I mean, they were trying to do good, but to be taken away from your mum, it's not really a good thing, is it? In hindsight, listen, nothing to take away from what they did. They still
they thought they were doing the right thing.
They still do very good things. Very good things.
That's a tough story, that though, isn't it? Going through that. Yeah. So the military, Frank, you were based in Germany. Then after the war, the US, Cold War, etc. And then Mary was working there. You met. So how long were you in the military then?
I was in 4 years.
4 years.
From January 69 to January 73.
Went to England first.
Went to England first. I was stationed in Upper Hayford for 6 months. But at that point, they were just switching aircraft from the 101 Voodoo aircraft to the F4 Phantom. So I was only there a few months, and then they sent me to Alconbury. And there I learned, they called it FTD school, Field Detachment. And I learned the F4 there. And when I got back to Upper Hayford, they were getting ready to ship me to Zweibrücken, which was a Canadian base that had been vacant for several years. And the Americans were going to come in and reopen that base and put a couple squadrons of F4s in there.
And the F4s were what the plane that took pictures.
I was mine was reconnaissance, and I I was a crew chief on them, so I would launch them, recover them, refuel them, do maintenance on them, that type of thing.
Cool. And again, I believe Top Gun's based on you as well as Easy Rider.
Similar, yeah, similar.
Yeah,
similar.
Yeah. You kept that bit quiet.
They called me Goose.
But it's quite an experience, though, to go to another continent, to be stationed somewhere.
It's I mean, to think of the responsibility you're putting on 18, 19-year-old kids to launch multi-million-dollar aircraft and 2 lives in there, too. It's... Yeah. Vietnam
came not long after as well, didn't it? So,
Vietnam was during it.
In fact, around that time.
Yeah, my next stop was.
If he'd have re-enlisted, that was the
they were gonna let me go to Da Nang, but by that point, I had gotten smart and thought, you know what, I don't want any parts of this stuff.
Yeah, but they kept sending
not the military, the Vietnam part.
Yeah. They kept sending like 19-year-olds over there. That was awful.
Yeah,
terrible. But it's quite a story. That moving on to politics now. One of the things I do, I think of Frank as like a great American, Mary, great, lovely person, family living in Philadelphia, fantastic, the American dream, and you're a Democrat. So. For those who are listening, the Democrats are Joe Biden's party, the Republicans are Donald Trump's party. I think everyone in the world will know that basic differentiation. But, I mean, we've discussed politics in the past. I've shared books with you when I was over there. What is going on in the United States over the last... I mean, we've had crazies around, but since 2016, what's it been like being there?
It's not easy. It's hard to understand what these MAGA people are thinking. I always say Donald Trump doesn't tell many truths.
Yeah.
But the truth he did say was, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and not lose a vote.
Yeah.
That was probably the most honest thing he ever said in his life. He's an evil man. I mean, I know 2 people. Well, one's passed away, but I've known 2 people that have had dealings with him financially that he's cheated. I had an electrician friend that done work for him down in Atlantic City, and he cheated him. I had a friend that worked for my dad. He was an ex-Philadelphia cop that worked for him in security down in one of his casinos, made all kind of promises to him, and he never came through. So he's a liar and a cheat. That's all he's been. I mean, he's a New York businessman. So,
well, Tim, the last election, all very close. So half of the country doesn't agree with that. And that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I know, like, since the credit crunch, life's tough. Like, 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, even in, like, the most powerful economy in the world, etc. But no one's expecting perfection, but, people are angry. And it's just when people turn towards someone like that. I mean, this is a guy who, in any other walk of life, you'd avoid him like the plague. And we can make him the most powerful person. And I'm kind of in on the hustle with him. I just don't understand the mentality of it.
Well, I think a lot of it is this Christian nationalism. He's going to straighten everything out. I mean, you read the stories. They're going to put the 10 Commandments in schools now. They've already
down in Alabama.
Yeah, they backheeled the the women's right to choose. The Roe v. Wade. It's all backheeled now. He is, I guess, I don't want to say to his credit, but I guess with some people he stacked the courts with people that said, it's Roe v. Wade is law and we won't change it. And as soon as they got in, they changed it. With the last 3 Supreme Court justices. Listen, the Democrats, prize when it comes to a lot of this stuff. I mean, you had Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who should have gotten out a long time ago. The Democrats allowed Mitch McConnell to hold up Merrick Garland being appointed. The Democrats, to me, want to bring a quiche to a knife fight. And you're not going to win like that. I don't particularly want them to get nasty and dirty, but I think that's probably what's going to have to happen.
Yeah, I follow American politics quite closely. I read about it. I listen to 2 or 3 podcasts a week. because they say like when America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. You look at the credit crunch 2007-8, and how it affected the world. The Great Depression in the 30s, which led to the war, etc., which resulted in you going to places like Europe. These things affect people, but if American democracy collapses, and many people are thinking, oh yeah, so what? It doesn't impact me. It's a real bad influence on the rest of the world. And
Sure it is.
American leadership in the UN, in NATO, and places like that. You have people who are critical of those institutions, and we spoke about Vietnam. But if American democracy collapses, I just can't see any positives other than it's just not good. And I mean, if you imagine this 20 years ago, if someone would have said this is what will happen in the next 20 years, an insurrection on January 6th. I remember watching it going, this is a game changer. And within a week later, it was like, I didn't say anything. It was literally like some kind of mind trick.
The
you know
next
what I mean?
night, you had Mitch McConnell, you had Lindsey Graham, you had all these people. I'm done. I'm done with this guy. And the next week they're down there buddy with him.
Yeah, that's the power of him.
He has a hold over people, Tim, that you can't. It's like Democrats you can't fathom.
It's like he's got the dirt on everybody, and I'm going to release it. And I'm going to. If you talk against me, you're done. I mean, what's he going to do with these people that spoke out against him that are in his so-called party? I mean, it's not a Republican Party anymore. It's a Republican cult, in my opinion. There are still some really good Republicans. And we need the two parties. We really do, because of the diversity in the United States. I mean, diversity everywhere. Some people are for this, some people are for that. Conservatives used to be conservatives, so they say financially. They spend more money than Democrats now. But conservatives don't want to look at it that way. They find some other excuse.
It is a scary situation, because it is like a cult. You've got, 20-30% of people who believe in the cult. Then you've got to try and get enough of the others to hate the other side enough.
And also, Tim, the popular vote doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's like electoral college.
It's electoral college that the so-called founding fathers, in their infinite wisdom, thought was a way to go. But my understanding is
one man, one vote.
It should be one man, one vote. But they say that back when they created this, that people really weren't smart enough or really informed enough. So we have to put these electorates in to make the decision for you, which is, we're past that now. And also the other thing, voting on one day. I mean, one day in November. We're voting on one day in November because that's when the guys used to bring their harvests into town from miles away so they could vote on that one day. I don't know all the particulars about it, but they made it on a Tuesday. They made it in November, to make it convenient for these people to get into town. Now they're all screaming like, well, we can't have mail-in ballots, when 20, 30 years ago, it was fine. They did it down in Florida, and they used to say, well, why doesn't everybody have mail-in ballots? Once we got them, now they don't want them.
Yeah, as you say, it's that conspiracy thinking and cult thinking. And as you said, the Supreme Court is now 6-3 for Conservatives. Unbelievable things are happening.
And the other thing, they're all, 6 of them, they're all Catholics.
Yeah. But
that's not their representation.
No. But do you reckon that there's a guy behind them, part of that 2025 project, which is absolutely terrifying? It's like, I mean, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say, you look at 1930s Germany, the way some of the political things were going. Obviously, the economy in the United States is in a much stronger position. But it's a terrifying thing. And the Electoral College, if you win a state, as long as you get one more vote than the opponent in that state, you get all the Electoral College votes. And it's not a fair system, is it? Hi, everyone. Welcome to part 2. We're just going to finish off here with the implications of the presidential debate last week. Now, it's fair to say it didn't go well for Biden. In fact, in terms of presidential debates, it was a disaster. He did get better as time went on. He is up against a notorious liar who should not have ever be in a position of power over anyone else. What was your spin on it?
Well, pretty much the same thing. Very disappointed. I was hoping hoping we're going to see Joe like he was during the State of the Union. You know, I guess maybe if you don't have that teleprompter in front of you,
Yeah,
you can't get good. I don't think that was a total excuse. I don't think it was set up the right way. I'd like to see debates done with members of your cabinet or something like that. The president can't answer everything. You know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect Donald Trump to be able to answer everything, but he just wings it and says whatever the hell he wants and people buy it. But you know, I don't know. I get mixed emotions. Should he be the guy to continue on? Should he pass it on to Kamala? It's a bit late in the game now. I mean, I'm going to vote for whoever they put out there. I mean, if it's weekend at Bernie's and they got to put Biden on a hand truck and wheel him out there, I'm voting for him. You know, I feel secure in if something happens to him that whoever's next in charge will be.
I think the thing is as well, like President Biden, he's got good people around him who are competent. Like we've just had a Labour government come in. The last 3 days, 4 days, people have been waking up thinking, oh my, you know, without thinking, oh my God, what now? What stupid thing has happened now? And like it's like competent people. Over here, they've just got some guy who's head of prisons. He runs Timpson's like a shoe repair, and he employs ex-prisoners and ex-cons, and he says we need to be working with these people to get the prison population down because we can't afford to just be locking them all up.
Yeah.
So there's been some sensible appointments, and Biden, he's got good people behind him in the cabinet. And anything is better than Trump because we know about January 6th. We know that behind the scenes, John Bolton, all these hawks, right-wing hawks, have all come out and said it was chaos. It was like Emperor Nero in Rome, some lunatic running the shop. And as much as you use anti-wokeism and all that nonsense and the anti-immigration thing, they turned down a chance to make a good immigration policy with Biden a few months ago because they want to use it as an electoral issue.
I think we all know what would have happened if that would have been Black Lives Matter that stormed that Capitol. I think we all know what would have happened. I think there would have been a lot more deaths.
Yeah.
Because the Trump administration would have went, oh boy, there you go. See what happens? You know, I don't think we would have waited for 2 hours or whatever it was, 80 minutes or whatever to finally send somebody in or to make a statement anyway. Hey, this is enough. You know, everybody says, well, what did he do? He made a statement. And I always say, well, what did Charles Manson do? Charles Manson didn't kill anybody. He just sent his people to kill him. So, you know. Well,
he didn't call him off, did he? Have you heard about the Republican woman who said he was in the back of the car trying to grab the wheel and all that when he was meant to? Just absolute insanity.
I do find that hard to believe that he wanted to go there. But, you know, I mean, just like he wanted to go to Vietnam too, right?
Yeah. Well, he's a horrible man. I think the interesting thing is, one thing I did see the other day is that although Kamala Harris hasn't really set the world on fire, the vice president, and theoretically all the money that's gone to the Biden-Kamala Harris campaign, you can't just then spend that on another person. There's an issue there.
Oh, no, you can't. Biden has to release his delegates in order for anything to happen. Until he does that, he's the nominee.
Yeah. I think
he's not stepping down to. He's not.
No. I don't think he will now. But I saw Kamala Harris, even though she's around 36% like Biden, she's actually up on Trump. She actually does really well against Trump because people would just view her as a sensible option. But honestly, I can't tell you what people around the world were doing with this. I know the French just kind of kicked those right wingers into touch a little bit.
That was good to say.
That was positive. But we're watching with bated breath because this isn't just about like American democracy. This is about like
you're in Europe. Tell me if I'm wrong. Did a lot of this stuff all start because of the policies of George Bush in the Middle East, causing all these people to flee the Middle East? And where are they going? You know, they're going to England, they're going to France, they're going to Italy, they're going to Germany, Poland. They're going to all these places now.
Yeah.
In my opinion, George Bush started all this.
Right, yeah.
You know,
I think the instability around the Iraq area, Libya apparently is in a terrible state as well. But
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's hard to know what to do. But that Bush stuff, I mean, that kind of the Republicans say, right, we need to go around the world and sort it out. The contrast between that now
Yeah.
and this kind of like almost like a mafia figure saying, I'm going to be in charge. I'm the boss. No one messes with me. Whatever else happens, happens. I don't care. That's literally what we've come down to. But yeah, I think the immigration thing, the problem is the debate on immigration is just not rational. And what we're getting over here is just like people making stupid statements that aren't even related to the truth.
Listen, that immigration down at the southern border, it's a problem, and Joe need to be more proactive addressing it.
Yeah,
I mean, they did have bipartisan agreement with the fella from Oklahoma, I think it's Langford, to get something done, and Trump backheeled it from what they say. You know, he says he didn't have anything to do with it. Well, yeah, I doubt that.
Yeah.
You know, we can't solve that problem because that's what I'm running on.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Well, that's exactly what happened because he puts everything. It's him and America is secondary, isn't it? But I mean,
not for the better. It's not for the better of the country.
Yeah,
Listen, sometimes maybe the Republicans have a better idea on certain things. You know, the majority agrees with them, then that's what we got to do. Listen, we got a gun control problem here where 80 to 90% of the people say we need some form of gun control. You know, do we get it? No. Abortion, 80% to 90% of the people say leave Roe v. Wade alone. Can we do it? No, because you got those 9 on the court, 6 of them being Catholics, 6 of them being conservative, that dictate the policy.
Yeah, it's effectively a like minority rule, isn't it? What's happened since 2016? I know Obama. I think one of the big changes was when Merrick Garland didn't get on that Supreme Court, and then when Ginsburg died, shocking. But the founding fathers, as limited as they all were, etc., they were trying to stop really dangerous people having too much power. They couldn't predict Trump.
No, they absolutely. I say it all the time. They could not predict somebody like this rising to power.
Yeah, but as Mary said, it's like he's a cult figure, like some kind of religious figure. If in any other walk of life, you'd say, "Go away from me. I'm not making trading with you, or I don't want you anywhere near me. You're a horrible man."
You know what, Tim? They love him. They love him.
Yeah. Well, there was a great book written about Hitler called I think it was like the infectious psychology of Adolf Hitler. Forgive me now, I can't remember the exact title. But like he was a bit of a weirdo. We had like generals and all these people eating out of his hands, and Trump's got this power. And like I looked at Trump, you look at him, don't you, the first time he speaks, and you go, okay. Same with like people like Nigel Farage and Boris. Some people take them at face value or like think it's a bit funny. But a lot of people you look, and after like 2 times you watch them, you go, well, they're talking crap. I can see right through this idiot. Yeah. And Trump is like that on an even bigger scale. It's crazy. Yeah, absolutely. Well, crazy.
They put the blame on somebody else. It's always somebody else's fault. It's the blacks. It's the Mexicans. It's the Jews. It's always somebody else. He never takes responsibility for anything.
Yeah.
And his group, they buy it. Nothing's his fault.
I think one of the worst things about him is that anyone who goes near him gets burnt.
Oh yeah.
And they keep going back for more. Like these people, like what his lawyers get burned. Anyone who goes, he just sells them. He'll let others go to prison. He'll let others die. He just doesn't care. He's just an immoral character. And
doesn't 40 of the 44 people that have left his cabinet or cabinet positions say they're not voting for him? Doesn't that speak volumes?
Yeah.
Other than General Flynn, every general that's been associated with him says, he's a wacko. He's a wacko. See, that's the thing I worry about. And I was given some assurance by a member of my family that's in the military. I said, what do we do when Trump says to the military, go do this? I was told, we swear an allegiance to the Constitution, not to the president. That gives me some assurance, but not a lot. Not a lot.
Yeah, a very interesting time. I mean, as you say, you talk about Republicans and people can have their own opinions, but to see this guy, I mean, Biden should have absolutely wiped the floor with him at that presidential debate. And you're right, it shouldn't be about a presidential debate, but the presidential system, it's very much on who's this guy? Is this guy like got a bit about him? Like, can he go into a room and impress people to varying degrees?
Yeah, your Clintons, your Obamas, your Ronald Reagans.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, Trump can go in a room and like, you know, at one level, he can probably like talk and crack a few jokes and stuff. Yeah, Biden should have wiped the floor.
In that debate, if it was fact checked, I mean, you know, 99% of the stuff that come out of his mouth was lies, but they believe it. I think one of the big problems is, Tim, it's social media now. When all this stuff started, you know, where you could go online and get information and all that. Then we get into the Facebooks and the Twitters and all that. People just believe what they see. This is the truth now. Listen, my 97-year-old father got hooked in that stuff, you know, and you know, you got to talk him off the ledge. You know, this is BS. You know.
Moving on. We'll see what happens in November, but I'm holding my breath. So you've got 3 children then who are my cousins. One lives over in the UK, our Julia, and my mum and Mary are 2 of 11 brothers and sisters on my mum's side. And Frank, you and is it 3 other siblings?
5.
5 siblings, sorry. 5 in total. Yeah, your grandfather moved over from Germany and, you know, just wanted to paint a bit of a picture. But I think there's so many interesting stories to tell from around the world and family connections, because everyone lives in their own little thing and goes, oh yeah, that's just my life, it's boring. But to other people, it's fascinating. And within 2 generations, people forget these things, you know.
Sure.
Yeah, good stuff. Listen, thank you for giving up your morning to speak to me.
Did you talk to anyone in Australia, Tim?
No, I haven't spoken to any of the Australians. I suppose I could really, couldn't I? My dad's brother lives over there, and there's lots of cousins of yourselves. Roseanne's lovely.
And I'd give you another insight on things.
Yeah,
You know?
Roseanne, who we've stayed with a few times, is just absolutely lovely. Like, you know, so it's always nice to speak to people. Thanks very much for your time, anyway.